Good morning friends, this is Shivakkumar again. So in the last video we have seen about the Agile method for implementing a project. What is an Agile and what are the different implications of Agile. So when we need to Agile, where Agile is applicable, and Agile values, Agile principles, that is so-called Agile myths, and different Agile methodologies like Scrum, XP, Lean, Kanban, all these things. And what is the advantage of Agile over waterfall methodology? How it is different from Agile is different from waterfall methodology. So it gives an insight, right? Actually, so why we need to follow Agile, how the customer is immediately benefited, and how Agile is customer centric. So what is the main difference between the traditional way of that is waterfall methodology of sequencing the steps or phases in a project? How Agile is doing, say for example, we can actually prioritize the events or prioritize the activities, and based on that we are doing this project management, right? So these everything actually given a good insight. Why we need to follow Agile, and so how we need to approach Agile. Say for example, it depends on the customer and the business they are running, right? Actually, so for example, actually this so-called Lean or Kanban, right, can be applicable to the Toyota manufacturing, right, car manufacturers. So they only invented this Lean manufacturing and everything, Kanban, all these things, right? So it depends on industry. So whether it is an IT industry or a software industry, right? Actually, normally this Lean, Kanban, those kind of things will be, from actually manufacturing. And say this XP and all these things, right? Actually, so even XP is for actually purely for actually IT kind of orientation, software industry. Scrum actually it's a universal thing, right? Actually, so all the industries are nowadays practicing this agile methodology. So, but Agile and Scrum, Scrum is emerging from the Agile, but so we have some big difference actually between this Agile and Scrum, right? So in this chapter we are going to discuss about what is the Scrum methodology, how it is applied to the any project or any industry. So we can see the end-to-end architecture of Scrum and different roles in the Scrum, various Scrum events and artifacts created during the Scrum, right? So how the events are defined in the Scrum and the related purpose, different artifacts in the Scrum, chronology of event in the Scrum, say which event will come first, which event will will follow the first event and the last event, right? So these are the important factors to be discussed in this video. As a part of first we discussed about Agile principles and values and methodologies and why we need Agile, and as a follow-up to that we are discussing about the Scrum. So Scrum is most popular Agile methodology. So we have various key points in the Scrum, right? So Scrum, if you take the Scrum overview, right? So we need to discuss about product backlog, sprint planning, sprint review, sprint retrospective, daily Scrum, sprint planning, everything, right? So the requirements are identified and put in a prioritized list called product backlog, as already told. The product backlog consists of all of the requirements known now and new ones that will be identified later on. All current and new requirements are included in the same product backlog. Hence, it is one-stop shop for requirements on Scrum. The work is planned to be done in various iterations called sprints. A sprint planning meeting is held to select some of the items from the product backlog. These are put in the sprint backlog. So input, right? So the sprint generated lasts for 1 to 4 weeks, and objective is to deliver all items from the sprint backlog. A daily Scrum meeting is held in order to track the progress. A sprint is a time box, so it depends on actually the client and the team, the Scrum Masters, product owner, everybody. This means that its direct duration cannot change irrespective of whether all items have been successfully delivered or not. Undelivered items are moved back to the product backlog to be taken into the future sprint. Duration of sprint never changes no matter what. Okay. So the product backlog will be given as a input to the sprint backlog, will be actually the result of sprint planning. And then actually after this sprint planning is over, we find this backlogs, right? So we are planning in different planning process, right? So we have daily scrums, 1 to 4 weekly sprints, and as a result of that, actually what we are observing is a sprint retrospective, then followed by the sprint reviews and everything. So finally it will be given to this final shape of the shippable product increments, right? This is how actually the Scrum is working. So each event in the Scrum is a time box. Okay. At the end of the sprint, a sprint review is held to check the completion of items and sign off, followed by the sprint retrospective to discuss learnings from the sprint. Each sprint is expected to deliver a potentially shippable product increment. So we have three different pillars in Scrum. So what are the three pillars of Scrum, right? Scrum pillars in essence is the basis. So Scrum, first pillar should be, Scrum pillar is transparency, second is inspection, third is adaptation. So this is very important when you are checking, when you are writing the exams, right? Actually say certified Scrum professional, right? Or actually say PSM, right? PSM or CSM, or actually safe Scrum Master. So these are the basic concepts in the Scrum methodology. So this forms a Scrum. Very important point. And actually, you know, right? Actually, if you check this professional Scrum Master, there in their website scrum.org, you can find this Scrum guide. So it is really very good document. So if you are interested in Scrum, you please go through that scrum.org document. That is really good. So Scrum results on three pillars. That is transparency. I can say transparency, and then inspection and adaptability, right? So this Scrum rests on three pillars I told: transparency or visibility, inspection and adaptation. So what is transparency? Transparency means, I can say, that all stakeholders have a visibility to what is being done and where we stand. It also encompasses the fact that all parties are involved in decision what will be acceptance criteria for each deliverable. This is referred to as a definition of done. So each should know, each person in the team should know what is to be done, what activities we have made, and what is future thing. Everything should be done. This is called a definition of done. And what is inspection? Inspection is done in Agile on a continuous basis to check the work progress towards archiving its goals and connecting any deviations early on. So this is done daily using the Scrum meetings. That is what actually we are inspecting the progress. And adaptation. Adaptation is somewhat related to the inspection to ensure that any deviations are taken care to avoid failure in the project. So transparency, inspection and adaptation are very important. So I am requesting everyone to go through this scrum.org guide, right? The Scrum guide. So that will help you to understand what is the exact what Scrum is saying and what to follow, everything, right? So I will discuss in my upcoming videos. Okay, so now we discussed about the Scrum pillars: transparency, inspection and adaptation. Now we are going to Scrum roles. In Scrum methodology, we have different roles, right? Product owner, Scrum master and development team. Like the different, SAFe is having different, say, release train manager, all these things are there. Okay. So the product owner represents, I can say, represents the customer and is responsible and accountable for the requirements, managing the product backlog, prioritizing the items in the backlog. In the last chapter, I have told actually we need to prioritize the items. So important activities will come in first, will be taken first, and less important will be taken in the last, right? So prioritizing all these things will be done by the Scrum team. And accepting the deliverables, what the development team delivers, and providing support required by the development team from the business front. Product owner is totally responsible to maximize the value of the product being delivered. He also, that is product owner, also creates a product vision and shares it with all other members of the Scrum team. He is the main person. He is from the client team, like a business coordinator or kind of role, or a site manager kind of role. And next comes Scrum Master. Scrum Master is a servant who is responsible for removing impediments or any obstacles, right, to the progress and facilitating various Scrum events. He also acts as a bridge between product owner and development team for communicating visions, goals and backlog items. The term servant leader means the Scrum Master does not manage the team actually. So he facilitates the team. He's a facilitator. Sorry. He rather performs administrative tasks for them to ensure that they concentrate on delivering items from the backlog. The Scrum Master should not be mapped to a traditional project manager role, as later manages the project, whereas the prior facilitator, that is Scrum Master, facilitates things on the project for the self-organizing development team. So do not confuse with actually this product owner as a project manager. Project manager role is different. So he is not the part of the Scrum team. Okay, he is different. So his role is actually in financing, planning, all these things. Actually, he is an overall guy. But the Scrum product owner is specific to the particular project, right? That is a different or particular program. So both are different. So when considering the Scrum roles, we need to consider only this product owner, Scrum Master, development team. Development team where the functional or technical or security persons are there. Scrum Master is a person who is advising or coordinating with the product owner in completing the project or executing the project. He is a kind of facilitator role, not a manager. And a product owner is the one actually who is acting as an bridge between the end user and the IT team. So he is not a manager. He is just a kind of actually finalizing person, or actually I can say managing the product backlog, and is responsible for the and accountable for the requirements. So prioritizing the items in the backlog, which should go first and which should go last, accepting deliverables, and providing support required by the development team from the business front. So he is the main person to maximize, that is called actually who is responsible for maximizing value of the product, means it is a product owner. So he should create a product vision and share it with other team members in the Scrum team. So we now actually find the difference between what is the role of a product owner, and a Scrum Master. Scrum Master is a servant leader. Okay. So his duty is to remove the problems or defects in the progress and facilitates various Scrum events. So he acts as a bridge between the product owner and the development team. So product owner will act as a bridge between the business user, business lead and the IT team. And Scrum Master will act as a bridge between the product owner and the IT team. That is the difference. He is a leader, servant leader. Okay. He does not manage the team. That is the biggest. He rather performs administrative tasks for them to ensure that all the team are concentrated for the delivering items from the backlog. Okay, that is important. Now third comes the development team. Okay, so development team consists of resources with the skills that are adequate to deliver all work. Okay, it is a self-organizing cross-functional team. Say it may be MM, PP, SD, QM, PM, TM, EWM, ABAP or PA team or security team or actually BTP. So different people actually say because based on my experience on SAP projects, I'm giving this SAP cross-functional teams as an example. So each one can actually take the example of other Oracle or JD Edwards or EAKI, BAN or whatever it may be. So it is recommended. So the development team is self-organizing cross-functional team, as already told. So they need to coordinate within themselves and organize as a ownership person. Okay. So they need to take the individual decisions actually. So this is what actually the Agile and waterfall methodologies differ. In waterfall, all the planning and execution will be done by the manager, and in Agile Scrum, each and individual team members are responsible. So they are self-organizing and cross-functional. Okay. So it is always welcome actually if a new person, PP guy can learn WM or actually MM or SD. That is always recommended, and the MM can learn WM, SD, PP. That is always cross-functional thing is always recommended. So it is recommended to keep this team, development team, as small, ranging from 5 to 9 people and a maximum of 10. It is also recommended that development team should not change during the sprint, but may change across the sprints. That is important. All the three roles, that is product owner, Scrum Master and development team, put together is collectively called as Scrum team. Apart from the Scrum team, there could be other stakeholders like project managers, organizations, users, funding person, project funding person, project facilitator. So these roles are not specifically defined in the Scrum, but they may exist in the project. It should be noted that three roles defined in the Scrum are committed to the work, whereas the other stakeholders whose roles are not defined in the Scrum may be involved in the work. Committed roles are often termed as a pig in the breakfast and involved. So you can see this difference, right? Actually, so how this project manager is different from the product owner and all the Scrum Master, everything. So roles are termed as a chicken in the breakfast. So that is a big difference actually. So what I am trying to say is actually committed roles are often termed as a pig in the breakfast, and involved roles, right? Whatever involved roles is termed as a chicken in the breakfast. These are the managerial terms. This is taken from the nature. This is because the pig gives itself completely in the breakfast as a bacon, and the chicken only contribute egg for the breakfast. This is the main difference. Scrum events. Now we are moving to the Scrum. We have seen the Scrum pillars, Scrum roles, and now Scrum events. Several events are used in Scrum. However, not all of them are defined as a part of Scrum methodology. So we can see one by one. Okay. Scrum events. First thing, strategy, meeting, So often used, not defined in the Scrum. Strategy meeting is a kick-off meeting held to discuss product strategy to come up with product vision. Define epic user stories, that is high-level requirements. Define detailed user stories to make product backlog and to create product roadmap. Epic user stories are required at a high level. Requirements on Agile are generally in the form of user stories that we shall discuss in the later videos. Product backlog contains all items that needed to be delivered for the product, and a product roadmap is a pictorial view of all the requirements included in each of the release. So work is breakdown into releases, which are further breakdown into iterations. A strategy meeting should happen at least once in 12 months, and duration is generally 4 to 16 hours, and all the stakeholders are invited to this meeting. So these are important things. And second thing, release planning meeting, and often used but not defined in the Scrum. This is also not defined in the Scrum but often used. Release planning meeting is held for each release to decide prioritization of requirements in the product backlog, right, and decide what should be included in each release, and put high level estimates against each item in the product backlog. So the product owner is in charge of this meeting, and all the stakeholders are invited to attend it. It is generally runs for 4 to 8 hours. Okay. So I already told, actually product owner is responsible for all the decision making and confirmations. Third comes sprint, defined in the Scrum. So this is defined in the Scrum. Say first points, the strategy meeting, that is not defined in the Scrum but often used. Release planning meeting, not defined in the Scrum but often used. Sprint, yes, it is defined in the Scrum. Sprints are time boxed iterations of 1 to 4 weeks, most often done for 2 weeks. They build a potentially releasable product increment. Several sprints make up release, and several releases make up project. Important thing. Several sprints make up release, and several release make up project. Okay, this is a difference. Several sprints, collective sprints make up a release, and collective releases make up a project. That is a difference you need to note. Fourth point, fourth thing, Scrum event. Sprint planning. Sprint planning meeting. Yes, it is defined in the Scrum. So sprint planning is a meeting or held by the product owner to do detailed estimations of stories in the product backlog and agree on which ones can be taken in the sprint and put in the sprint backlog. The decision on which stories to be included depends upon the priority set by the product owner and the risk perceived by the development team. We try to deliver those stories that provide the most business value first. Sprint planning meeting generally includes only the Scrum team consisting normally, right, a Scrum team consisting product owner, Scrum master and development team. Its duration is about less than 2 hours per week of length of the total sprint. So for example, if the sprint is for 2 weeks, then the meeting goes for about 4 hours. That depends on actually if 1 week means it is 2 hours. That is important. So now comes fifth point, daily Scrum meeting. Yes, it is defined in the Scrum. Daily Scrum is a meeting that is organized on a daily basis and is a time box to maximum of 15 minutes. Irrespective of anything, the duration should never cross 15 minutes. This is very important. It should not go beyond 15 minutes. Invitees generally include the development team, product owner and Scrum master. So if they have if they are playing the role in the Scrum, then actually the product, the Scrum master, all these people are invited. Okay. only the development team is allowed to speak. They only provide an answer to the three questions. What are the three questions in the sense? What has been achieved yesterday? What will be achieved today? And what are the obstacles in progressing the particular work? These three questions the development team has to speak. So the Scrum Master and the product owner are not essential, are not mandatory, but actually if they are playing the role, then it is recommended to participate as a part of the development team. But ownership will be with development team. No other points are allowed to be discussed. But this is important. Do not discuss your personal or any other project related, finance related or something we cannot discuss. Only what has been achieved yesterday, what will be achieved today, and what are the obstacles in the work. These 3 points should be discussed in the meeting. So, this meeting, that is I can say the daily Scrum meeting, right, as a part of sprint meeting, as a part of the Scrum, should be ensured by the Scrum Master. Any other issues or risk are put in a parking lot. We are parking the car in the parking lot, right? Same like that. Any other issues or risk can be put in a parking lot to be taken up at later offline with only the required stakeholders. So which people are required, we need to consider those people only. And the sixth thing, sprint review meeting defined in the Scrum. The sprint review meeting is held at the end of the sprint to present that work has been completed. The development team shows the definition of done, right? The done. So we have completed the items to the product owner and other stakeholders. This is about getting acceptance of work done, also referred to as a scope validation, right? The scope validation in traditional project management, right? Actually, right? Actually, so that will be discussed at the initial phase, but in Scrum, every actually phase we are doing that. Future plans for the next sprint may also be discussed in this meeting. That normally runs for 1 to 2 hours. So I am giving the different events, Scrum events, right? Say, for example, actually strategy meeting, not in Scrum but we are often using. Release planning meeting, that is not in Scrum but often we are discussing. These two are not defined in the Scrum. It is not a Scrum event. But other things, sprint, defined in the Scrum. Sprint planning meeting, yes, it is defined in the Scrum. And daily Scrum meeting defined in the Scrum. So I have given the respective time box for each phases. And sprint review meeting, yes, it is defined in the Scrum. So next comes sprint retrospective meeting defined in the Scrum. So sprint retrospective meeting is the last event of the Scrum we need to consider. It should be held after the sprint review. In that meeting, right, in this sprint retrospective meeting, we invite only the Scrum team to discuss what went right and what went wrong during the just completed sprint. This learning is documented so we can improve our process or the way of working in later sprints. It goes for 1 to 3 hours. The time box for the sprint retrospective meeting is 1 to 3 hours. As a thumb rule, it goes for 45 minutes per week of length of sprint. For example, if the sprint was for 2 weeks, then this meeting goes for about 1.5 hours. Okay, and so 8th part, that is product demo, often used in the projects but not defined in the Scrum. So product demo is not defined in the Scrum. A product demo may be done at the end of the release to showcase the achievement in the release. The development team shows the new product features that were developed during the release. So first, actually, the Scrum events are how it is sequenced means strategy meeting, which is often used in projects but not defined in the Scrum. Second thing, release planning meeting, often used but not defined in the Scrum. Third point, sprint, yes, it is defined in the Scrum, and the sprint planning meeting defined in the Scrum, and a daily Scrum meeting defined in the Scrum, and sprint review meeting, yes, it is defined in the Scrum, and sprint retrospective meeting defined in the Scrum, and finally product demo, often very often used in the project but not defined in the Scrum. This I think actually I have discussed about the Scrum pillars, or then actually the Scrum roles, and then Scrum I can say events in a sequential manner. I hope this video is very useful, and in my next video I am talking about going to talking about the Scrum artifacts. So in depth of Scrum Scrum related details, right? Thanks friends, thanks for watching my videos. This is Shivakkumar signing off. Good morning friends, this is Shivakkumar again. So in the last video we have seen about the Agile method for implementing a project. What is an Agile and what are the different implications of Agile. So when we need to Agile, where Agile is applicable, and Agile values, Agile principles, that is so-called Agile myths, and different Agile methodologies like Scrum, XP, Lean, Kanban, all these things. And what is the advantage of Agile over waterfall methodology? How it is different from Agile is different from waterfall methodology. So it gives an insight, right? Actually, so why we need to follow Agile, how the customer is immediately benefited, and how Agile is customer centric. So what is the main difference between the traditional way of that is waterfall methodology of sequencing the steps or phases in a project? How Agile is doing, say for example, we can actually prioritize the events, or actually prioritize the activities, and based on that we are doing this project management, right? So these everything actually given a good insight. Why we need to follow Agile, and so how we need to approach Agile. Say for example, it depends on the customer and the business they are running, right? Actually, so for example, actually this so-called Lean or Kanban, right, can be applicable to the Toyota manufacturing, right, car manufacturers. So they only invented this Lean manufacturing and everything, Kanban, all these things, right? So it depends on industry. So whether it is an IT industry or a software industry, right? Actually, normally this